Hello friends, welcome to the recap, the show where we go through some of the major talking points that surround the fixtures from this most recent Premier League match week. Today, we have a look at a battle towards the bottom half of the table. Chelsea lose yet another game, and Newcastle really give it to Manchester United and send out a statement about their top four intentions. Please like the video and subscribe, it really would mean a lot to me. But now, let's talk football. Let's have a look at the bottom half of the table. Nottingham Forest 1, Wolves 1. Overall, I was quite impressed by the way that Nottingham Forest played. I thought that they had a decent game plan and they were set up quite well. Wolves, on the other hand, I'm quite concerned about. I'm not too sure where they're going from here, and I don't want them to rest on their laurels and think that they're already safe, because I'm not sure they are. When we have a look at the attacking momentum bar, it's quite shared. I think that overall both teams can be quite happy with the point, considering the fact that Wolves had the better half in the first half, and then Nottingham Forest really came back into it and started to dominate. We have a look at Nottingham Forest's side. Yes, they do change to a back five later on, but I thought that Freuler had a pretty good game, and Felipe was quite aggressive, which really did help in defending the likes of Cunha and Diego Costa when he came on. Brennan Johnson is definitely their biggest threat, as is Emmanuel Dennis. Morgan Gibbs-White had something to prove against his old side, and overall, attacking-wise, they did seem quite good, and they actually spoiled quite a few chances. Wolves, on the other hand, are very concerning to me at the moment, and I'm not quite sure what Lopetegui was really going for. Totti Gomez started out at left back, and while I do think he's a good centre back, I'm not too sure about him out on this left hand side. Hugo Bueno was on the bench, and he really has a little bit more athleticism that I think would better him than Totti Gomez, and Totti Gomez really failed to help out Matheus Nunes. He tried his very best, but he just couldn't help him. Speaking of Matheus Nunes, he ended up drifting infield a lot more, and that meant that Lemina and Neves really started to step on each other's toes because they were all trying to go to feet, and that's one of the main problems I have with this Wolverhampton Wanderers side. No one wants to run in behind. No one wants to spread the play. Adama Traore doesn't want to spread the play and try to drive in behind players. You have Cunha, who wants the ball to feet and to be able to lay off to go forwards. Moutinho does, Nunes does, Neves does, and Lemina does. All of these players don't want to run. And I don't mean that from a negative point of view, and I'm not trying to be funny. They just don't want to run, really. And when you have Pedro Neto come on, he's starting to make runs, but they don't look for him. And then what ends up happening is Nunes comes infield to try and pick up the ball to help it move over to this side. And it just makes it so incredibly easy to defend against. Now, to be fair to him, Nelson Semedo does get himself forward more often than not. But overall, the quality of the play isn't good enough to be able to facilitate him going forwards. So you leave yourself in a position where you're going to get counter-attacked by this side. Matheus Nunes is moving infield, which means that this side is going to be completely null and void and unoccupied. So they end up getting counter-attacked down this side and then having no players to be able to dominate down this side. And this is really showcased in the average positions, because if you can see, this is the Wolves side, and I'm not quite sure what's happening here. Now, yes, they do change positions, and yes, they do change personnel, but why is Matheus Nunes so far infield? Look at where Adama Traore is. This is where he should be. The line is quite good defensively, but there's no one out on this left-hand side. Why is Pedro Neto not playing? Why could you not play Pedro Neto? It seems so strange. There is no width and there's no balance to this side. Cunha is coming and dropping in a little bit too deep, and then you have the absolute mess that is the midfield, with Moutinho, Lemina and Neves all occupying what seems to be the same blade of grass. It's just a little bit ridiculous. Again, Totti did quite well, and I was quite impressed with him. Semedo did alright, to be fair to him, and then you have the two centre-backs. But what on earth is going on here? This is just madness, and there's no actual player out on this left side. It's something that really needs to be fixed, because if they don't, it's seriously going to become a problem, because it will become a thing that teams target. Teams will be more comfortable in defending against Wolves if they don't have enough balance on this side. It's just nowhere near good enough, and as I said, it's going to need to be fixed. As for the stats, well, generally, we've had a lot of this weekend, in the sense that one team dominates the possession, but Everything else is really in favour of the other side. 1.32 XG to 0.49, 17 shots, 17 on target. 7 on target, I should say, to 8 shots and a 1 on target. 1 on target, that being the goal, I should say. It just isn't great from Wolves, and they are starting to concern me somewhat. I know a lot of people have pinned them as the main team to stay up. I did as well. I do think they're going to stay up, but they're really making a tough go of it. 56 duels won, 17 aerial duels won, and it ended up being a draw, which I think is actually a good point for Wolves, all things considering. But they need to fix up their formation. Nottingham Forest were a decent side, so a good point nonetheless, especially away from home. The game ended 1-1, and the points are shared. Let's talk Chelsea. Well, this isn't good for Graham Potter, is it? Aston Villa, actually, I thought were very good. I thought defensively they were quite sound, even though they didn't have a lot of the ball. They actually made themselves extremely difficult to beat and then played on the counter-attack. They transitioned quite well, and on the certain occasions that Chelsea did manage to mess up, Aston Villa really capitalised. Having said that, Chelsea did lose the game, so we do need to talk about that to a certain extent. If we have a look at the attacking momentum bar, look at the amount of momentum and the amount of chances that Chelsea had. Look at this. It's absolutely crazy, and the 2 goals come from 2 pieces of play that Aston Villa get. One of the goals is a major error from a Chelsea player. What Cucurella's doing, I really do not know. And they capitalised. Arrizabalaga doesn't make a save, that's one thing. He doesn't make a single save. I'm not sure what he's meant to do for both goals, but he doesn't really make a save. Apart from that, Villa don't really have anything going forwards. And Chelsea have played well. I don't know how to articulate this without me sounding like I'm trying to back Graham Potter for no reason. I don't mind what happens to Graham Potter. I just don't think that he's the answer to Chelsea not succeeding. I think it's down to a serious individual error. Joao Felix is not clinical enough. Neither is Kai Havertz. Neither is Mudryk. Mudryk is trying to bed himself into the side. They clearly have too many players. However, they have a style of play. They have a pattern of play now. They have a formation. They clearly are getting better and better. Loftus-Cheek probably could be moved out of the side, but overall, generally, they are playing okay. And if you'll have a look at these attacking positions and just average positions throughout the game, Reece James, Koulibaly, Cucurella, they are fine. Then you have Enzo Fernandez and Kovacic sat next to each other, making sure they're dictating play. Loftus-Cheek and Ben Chilwell going forwards, making sure they're dominating the flanks. And then you have the front 3 of the likes of Havertz, Felix and Mudryk all going through in the middle of the box. They're in the width of the box, and it's correct. All of this is right. All of this is done properly. Look at the high line that they're playing. Admittedly, the high line does go against them, but look at the high line that they're playing. They're playing fine. They're playing okay. They're just not converting their chances. And this, to be honest, is very similar to what happened at Brighton. Brighton dominated possession. Brighton dominated the chances. Brighton dominated a lot of things, but they just couldn't find the one pivotal piece, and that was the main central striker. I don't think Joao Felix is the answer. I think if they keep him on past his loan, which I'm not sure they will, but if they were to, I don't think he's the answer at striker. I think they need something else. I think they need a clear out-and-out goal scorer. Whether that's Romelu Lukaku or not, I'm not sure, but this is not a Graham Potter problem. This is an individual problem caused by individuals who cannot put the ball in the back of the net. But Graham Potter can only get them so far. They need to then use their individual brilliance and individual talent that they're being paid quite a lot of money for. And I do mean a lot of money to be able to try and do this, and they're not completing their task at the moment, especially the strikers. From an Aston Villa perspective, because I want to be sure that we don't gloss over it, I was very impressed with the way they played. Generally, they were quite defensive and didn't really want to go forwards. John McGinn played a variety of roles here. He was shuffled about a couple of times, but I was very impressed with the way he just was so tenacious. He's a very tenacious player, and he did a good job of moving into midfield, but also making sure that he was pressing outside as well. Ashley Young makes a good job of going forwards and backwards, and so does Alex Moreno. Ollie Watkins gets his goal through his own quality and just running down the line, and then Buendia does okay. I was impressed by Jacob Ramsey as well, who had a pretty decent game. And if we have a look at the average positions, overall Villa did pretty well, considering. If you remember the high line that Chelsea had, in contrast to that, Villa was sat very deep. Watkins in the forefront, McGinn out on this right hand side. He does move in a bit centrally later on, and then you have Ramsey out on this left as well. Overall, I think Emery set them up pretty well. You have Young and you have Moreno with the 2 centre-backs, and then you have the midfield 3 just going out and doing their work. I thought Douglas Luiz did a very good job of shielding as well, as did Kamara. Kamara grew into the game. He looked a little bit nervous to begin with. But overall, I was very, very impressed by how Villa managed to defend, how they managed to go forwards and try to create some of those counter-attacking opportunities. Then if we have a look at the statistics finally, we can see that, yeah, overall, it was a Chelsea game. 2 expected goals, 0.92 for Aston Villa, 69% possession to 31%. Villa were fine with that. Emery knows what is going to happen. Emery knows how it's going to play out. 27 shots, 8 on target, 5 shots. 2 of their shots that they had on target turned out to be goals. It really is unfortunate, but I don't think this is a Graham Potter problem for Chelsea. I don't think it is. I think it's an individual problem, the fact that they're not taking chances. 3 big chances created, 3 big chances missed. That's not a Graham Potter problem. That's a striker problem. You need to have a striker to be able to convert your chances. He can only get them into the position, and then you need the players to be able to convert. They, amazingly, after having spent so much money, need more players. I can't believe I'm saying that, but they do. They even won their duels. They are doing almost everything right to be able to get massive victories in this game. And mark my words, at some point, if they stick with Graham Potter, that is a big if at the moment. If they stick with Graham Potter, Chelsea will start absolutely smashing teams once they get a decent striker or even get certain players into certain positions to be able to actually put those chances away. The moment that happens, Chelsea will start demolishing teams. At the moment, struggling to put the ball in the back of the net, but they're doing everything else correct. The game ended Aston Villa 2, Chelsea 0. Villa did great. It's not Graham Potter's fault. If you ever wanted to watch a game in which 2 teams were the complete polar opposites of each other, this is the game for you. Newcastle had more determination, they had more fight, they had more grit, they had a better tactical plan. And these are all of the things that Manchester United just did not have. And this led to the game ending Newcastle 2, Manchester United 0. If we have a look at the attacking momentum bar, we can see that Newcastle absolutely dominated this game. And there were just general parts of the match in which Manchester United had no build-up or momentum whatsoever. It was incredible. Just full-out periods of the match where Man United just couldn't get on the ball at all. Newcastle were fantastic. That's down to all of them, but 3 players in particular. Kieran Trippier is unbelievably good. I even think that he's very highly rated, but even then he is underrated because he has a great knowledge of when to play balls in behind. He understands when to play it into midfield, and he also understands when to rotate the passing round. He is extremely good at dead ball situations, and he's really a cornerstone of this side, as is Bruno Guimaraes, who has metronome-like passing. He is extremely press resistant, and he makes Longstaff and Willock, who are the 2 real main runners next to him, and look so very good because of the way that he's able to dictate play. Longstaff is good, and so is Willock, but they don't have the quality that Guimaraes has, and it's the quality that is really bringing out the best in players around him. Alexander Isak is probably one of the best signings that Newcastle have made in the recent past because of his ability, his touch on the ball, his movement and his speed. He is so very good. He didn't get his goal today, but he is fantastic. He's a handful to deal with for centre-backs. He can drop a little bit deeper and lay things off. He can run in behind. He has everything to be a great, great striker, and he just makes the lives of Jacob Murphy and Saint-Maximin that little bit easier because he can just play with them. So in pivotal positions, Eddie Howe has 1, 2 and 3 players for this Newcastle side to really look towards. I count Botman in here as well, by the way. Botman is world class, or close to world class. He's very, very good, and he will get better. But their spine of their team is just unbelievably good. Callum Wilson can substitute in for Isak as well. Callum Wilson obviously got the goal, but the spine of the team is just unbelievably brilliant. And then you have the runners, then you have the energy makers in this side, then you have the players willing to do the dirty work to make these quality players shine that little bit brighter. Dan Burn, I thought, did a very good job against Anthony as well, and it's all of this work rate, all of this effort, all of this just general power and determination that allows them to really do things in the proper and right way. And I say the proper and right way because there is a wrong way. Here we have the other side, the complete polar opposite. Valverde, of course, didn't get into the game whatsoever, a complete opposite to Alexander Isak. Manchester United's main playmaker in Bruno Fernandes didn't really get the ball, and when he did get the ball, he failed to win a lot of his duels. He in fact only won 1 out of his 5 grand duels. Then we have a look at Diogo Dalot. Comparing right backs to right backs is a little silly, but generally one of their cornerstones in Lisandro Martinez failed to really get into the game and failed to really dictate passes, which is what Manchester United really rely on in their back line. They rely on Lisandro Martinez trying to find the likes of Marcus Rashford or a Scott McTominay, but they weren't able to because of the work ethic of Jacob Murphy, Alexander Isak and Alan Saint-Maximin, coupled with the likes of Sean Longstaff and Joe Willock. These 5 players were just fantastic at pressing the ball, making it so that Martinez couldn't do anything about the level of passing that was being offered to him, and Sabitzer and McTominay failed to make any positioning runs to be able to help that. So did Bruno Fernandes. They just didn't do anything to try and help out their teammates, and that is exactly in the polar opposite to what Newcastle did. Newcastle always work for their teammates. They always are willing to make a pass. They're always willing to make a run for a teammate. It just didn't happen. Complete polar opposites. Speaking of which, let's have a look at the positioning for these teams. Now, we have Newcastle right here. This is unbelievably brilliant. We have Trippier, we have Byrne, the 2 fullbacks, we have the 2 centre-backs in Botsman and Schär. Then we have the midfield 3. Look how close knit together they are. There's no one running out aimlessly. There's no one making just crazy runs. They're all in line. They're all next to Guimaraes, because Willock can go up, he can go down. Longstaff can go up, and Longstaff can go down. And then you have Bruno Guimaraes just dictating everything. Then you have the front 3. Right wing, left wing, and then the central striker. And then you have 3 pillars to be able to work off. Going down the channels, it's brilliant. The balance in this side is fantastic, and it's one of the main and crucial pillars to why Newcastle are so successful this season. Let us have a look at Manchester United though, because Lisandro Martinez is far too deep. He's not in line with the rest of his back line. You have Varane, who's pushing up randomly for some reason. Dalot's being pushed back due to some Maximan. Shaw's trying to get up the pitch, but he's being thwarted by the likes of Murphy going the other way. Then you have the front 3, which is fine and okay, only the fact that they couldn't really find them. Then you have the midfield 3. Again, their positioning is okay. It's just they just weren't there in the game, just mentally. And that's really shown in the statistics because, as you can see here, Newcastle absolutely wiped the floor with them. 47% possession, 53%. That is the only stat that is in Manchester United's favour from a positive point of view. The only stat. And that's not even that positive, because look at this. 3.57 expected goals. 22 shots to 6. 6 shots on target to 1. 9 shots off target to 3. And that's not great, but you understand the point that I'm making. Newcastle absolutely battered them. They battered them completely. And then this is the most damning thing for me. 59 duels won. 41 duels. That is a pathetic change. They should be somewhere close. But this shows how much Newcastle wanted it. It shows how much they were willing to do to be able to get over the line. 14 aerial duels to 8 is a little closer. But this stat right here is ludicrous. I'm sorry, but if you want a game that is night and day, that shows the contrast between two sides, it is this one. 59 to 41 is nowhere near good enough. And Erik ten Hag is going to really need to pick up these players, because that was a shocking performance from what should have been a better side. Newcastle were sensational. Newcastle were brilliant. Man United were shocking, but Newcastle should not care about that, because they had the work ethic, determination, quality and tactics to be able to get the job done. The game ends Newcastle 2, Manchester United 0. Finally, let's go over some of the results that we didn't cover in depth and then look towards the Premier League table. We have West Ham beating Southampton by 1-0. David Moyes and his men doing another piece of recovery. They have 2 games in hand. It looks like they should be safe. Arsenal beating Leeds by 4-1. Gabriel Jesus with 2 goals, all without Bukayo Saka, who actually took a rest out of this game. I think he came on as well, but he didn't start the match. Mikel Arteta thinking that he needed some time to recuperate. And Brendan Rodgers has been sacked by Leicester City after losing 2-1 to Crystal Palace, I should say, not Southampton, to Crystal Palace. Brighton and Hove Albion drawing 3-3 with Brentford. A ridiculous amount of goals in this game. If you have not seen them, go and check them out. And finally, Bournemouth are continuing their amazing recovery against Fulham with a 2-1 win. That's 3 losses in a row for Marco Silva's men after their defeat as well in the FA Cup. Finally, let's have a look at the Premier League table. As you can see, Southampton are stuck rooted at the bottom of the table. Leicester City are in 19th after only accumulating 25 points from 28 games. Moving a little higher, let's have a look at West Ham, who are in 14th with 27 points. Yes, 2 games in hand over the team above them in Wolves, who are seriously worrying me. I was very confident that they were going to make it out of the drop zone, and I am still confident of that. I still do think that they'll make sure that they are safe. However, their performances are not filling me with confidence, and to be honest with you, they're confusing me more than they are filling me with confidence. So I need to see something a little bit different from Wolves. I need to see something a little bit different from you. Nottingham Forest, obviously, sharing the points with Wolves. They also have a game in hand over the club from Molineux. We have Crystal Palace in 12th. Chelsea, after losing in 11th. What on earth is going on? I do maintain, it might be controversial, but I do maintain that it is not Graham Potter's fault. I do not think it is Graham Potter's fault. Honestly, I really don't. Fulham losing again after their 3 losses in a row. They are on 39 points, which is a fantastic achievement. However, they are starting to drop off just a little bit. Liverpool with their 4-1 defeat to Manchester City. Are the players still playing for Jurgen Klopp? Has he lost the dressing room? Do they still believe in his tactics, or is it just a matter of reinvigorating the squad with new players? Let me know your thoughts. Brentford and Brighton obviously sharing the points. They are going for places in Europe, so it was a massive game for them to both share. They both share 1 point going into their next fixtures. Brighton have actually 3 games in hand over Arsenal, and they have 2 games in hand over the likes of Man City. So that's very, very interesting. With 43 points, they could leapfrog a couple of teams. Brentford are doing fantastic as well with 43 points. Tottenham Hotspur are still yet to play at the time of recording. Manchester United are now in 4th after dropping down from their loss to Newcastle United by 2-0. And we look upwards towards the top of the table once more, where we have Arsenal on 72 points, Manchester City on 64 points. That 8-point gap is still in effect. However, Man City have 1 game in hand. Who is making it? We don't have a lot of time left. Only 9 games remaining for Arsenal, 10 games remaining for Man City. Who is taking it? Is it Arsenal or is it Man City? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you. That's it for today, guys. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave the video with a like and subscribe if you haven't for more content like this coming very soon. Make sure you hit that notification bell as well. You don't want to miss what's coming up in the near future. And let me know your thoughts on the games in the comment section below. Who is your team and how did they do this weekend? Let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear from you. But like I said, that's it from me for today. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care of yourselves and bye-bye.